Hello YouTube, this is the first time I am ever doing a video like this. I never have used a microphone before, not for recording videos obviously, but also never for chatting in the game. I have always used text chat, also Discord and also other apps, social media apps. I have never used a microphone in anything. This is the very first time. So if you're here and you know me, then congratulations, you're hearing my voice for the first time. Today I want to talk about a certain TF2 mod named Zombie Escape. Some of you may know Zombie Escape from the Counter-Strike games, such as Counter-Strike Source and Counter-Strike Global Offensive, but in this video I'm going to be talking exclusively about the TF2 version. Now this is not just a general Zombie Escape tips video. I want to talk specifically about a specific map which is called ZE Santassination, and this is just the port for TF2. There have been other versions of Santassination before on CSS and CSGO, but this is specifically TF2. Why do I want to talk about Santassination in just a single map? Well, let me give you a rundown. Santassination is one of my favorite source engine maps across every source engine game. Half-Life 2, Portal, TF2, the Counter-Strike games, Left 4 Dead. ZE Santassination is one of my absolute favorites, but I don't get to play it often, at least not on Counter-Strike. They very rarely do games. They very rarely do Santa runs. I'm going to call them Santa runs from now on. They very rarely do Santa runs on the CS servers. I check pretty much every day on this site called Game Tracker, and they very rarely do Counter-Strike Santa runs. But the TF2 version, there's one particular server, I'm talking about Skial. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Skial. They run ZE Santassination basically every single day, once a day at least. And the problem with them, that server in TF2, is that they suck at this map. They will die a lot in all different kinds of areas throughout the map, in each of the different stages. So what I want to do today is talk specifically about this map, every single stage almost, and hopefully people will get my advice and help win a lot of Santa runs more, because I'm just so sick of this. I'm getting tired of yelling at my team in the text about how they suck at Santassination, how they can't think for themselves, how zombies keep coming up and killing them. I'm sick of it. So I just want to make some advice and hopefully help people get better at this. I am not going to talk about Zombie Escape in general, like tips across all maps or what classes you should play, what loadouts you should have. I'm not going to be going over that, except for one thing. This is pretty much common across all Zombie Escape maps in TF2, but for Santassination this is especially important. Have at least one pyro. At least one pyro. Because pyros, if you don't know, pyros with their flamethrowers, they are basically like the flame grenade of TF2. If a zombie gets hit with a flamethrower, then they will slow down because they are on fire. And this is extremely helpful for defending. However, you cannot use the flare guns. They have nerfed the flare guns. Of course, if you know TF2, the flare guns, if they hit a zombie, they will also light the zombie on fire. This used to work in Zombie Escape. You could hit a zombie with a flare, they would go on fire, and they would slow down. But they have nerfed it in the Skial server. You can't use the flare gun anymore because the flare gun just fires a weak rocket, and it doesn't light the zombie on fire. But yeah, you should definitely use a pyro, at least one pyro, for Santassination, and in general, but Santassination is especially important. You should also have at least one healer on the team. That's either an engineer or a medic, or maybe even a heavy, having a sandwich. You should have at least one healer, because it's not just the zombies which will hurt you on this map. There are NPCs scattered throughout. There are beavers, there are elves, there are presents, and then, of course, Santa himself as the boss. They will attack you and they will hurt you. You have to have a dedicated healer to keep the team alive, otherwise the NPCs will slowly beat someone to death, and they can just become a zombie without an actual zombie, even touching them. So you gotta have at least one dedicated healer. Let's go over the map itself. Santassination has 5 total stages. There is the Prologue, Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, and then a secret truth stage, which is how you actually win the map. Now, between all of these stages, Santa runs usually die at Acts 1 and 2, and then the truth stage. The Prologue and Act 3 are not usually a problem, but they can be. I'm going to go over each of these stages in detail, how you should go through them, how you can survive, and what you shouldn't do because it will kill you. I'm going to go over all of them in detail, so hopefully you guys can understand why this map has a reputation among me and why people should really try and get better at this, because it is not an easy map at all. The first stage is the Prologue, the Pride Lands. Now, basically the rundown of this stage is that there's a lot of open space, and you just run, and there's a bunch of rock walls which will stop you. You have to wait for the rocks to break, and then after that, eventually, you'll come across like this. I would say it's a recreation of the stampede scene from the Lion King movie. It's exactly a recreation, except instead of wildebeests, it's naked reindeer. Now, if the Prologue is usually not so bad. In fact, I only come on the Skial server to play Santassination, and I very rarely have to play the Prologue. People already got the hang of it, and they get to stage 1, act 1 pretty easily. It's not usually a problem. But I just want to make sure, go over every stage, including the Prologue, just in case, so I can help people. Now, if there's any place in the Prologue where people die, it's the Stampede. I was talking about the reindeer. The reindeer are not just background scenery. What they will do is they will run across the whole field, just like the Stampede scene. And if you hurt them, if they hit you, you will take a lot of damage. I think it takes only like 2 or 3 hits from a reindeer for you to die. So the zombies are not the problem in the Prologue, it's the reindeer. They will come randomly, they will do a lot of damage, and you really gotta watch your back during that scene. But other than that, the whole stage, the whole Prologue, it is pretty damn easy. I very rarely have problems, if at all. Like I said earlier, a lot of people already got through this stage by the time I arrive at the server. So, not much to say about this stage. Just watch out for the reindeer and you will be a-okay. Then there's the proper Act 1, which is Beaver Steelworks. This is where Santa runs really begin to take shape. Now, there's 2 kinds of Santa runs I tend to see. One is a lot more common than the other. Let's first talk about the rare kind of Santa run. The rare kind of Santa run is where the team gets through all 4 main stages, the Prologue, Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3, without even losing once. I've had this happen like once or twice, and it's been great. It's been great seeing Santa runs pulled off flawlessly. But Act 1, this is where things really take shape. And more often than not, Santa runs, they will die. They will lose. They will lose a lot. And most of the time, they won't even reach Act 3. And especially more often than that, they will not even reach the truth, the final stage. Santa is that hard. It's a very hard map. And Act 1 is where a lot of the problems with this map really begin. Act 1 starts off with 2 paths. Basically, the first half of this map, there's 2 main paths players can take, and both paths must be taken in order to clear the stage. I'm going to go over both of these paths in detail. I'm going to start with the left path, because the left path is a lot more straightforward than the right path. The left path starts out, it's basically just a giant old walk, a big walk. That's all the left path is. The left path, there's barely any obstacles. Zombies will rarely come across that path. So if you can sneak in and take the left path, then you should be okay. There are a few beavers on that path though. Beavers are the first NPC you will run across in Santassination. They are pretty easy to kill, at least when you're in a group. If you're by yourself, then the beavers, they're unpredictable. They don't do a lot of damage, but it does take a bit of your own damage to kill them. So running across a beaver alone is not that fun. And there are a few beavers on the left path. But other than that, there are barely any problems, except for one thing. There is at the end of this path, basically there's a big red room with a bunch of pipes. And of course, below the pipes is a bottomless pit which can kill you. And you have to jump from these pipes to a door. And that's the true end of the path. This jump is not very forgiving. It's a pretty big jump. It should be doable, but it's easy to underestimate it and just jump and fall down the pit and die right at the end, which is really sad. So just be aware of that jump at the pipes right at the end and watch the beavers. And the left path, usually it's pretty easy. It's not an issue at all. Then there is the right path. Most players, including both the zombies and the humans, they will take the right path. The right path, it's still pretty easy, but it takes a little bit more thinking. So the right path starts off with, of course, a bunch of rock walls, as does the left path. I forgot to mention that. And there's a drawbridge at the right path. You don't go there in the left path. You go around the drawbridge. But there's a drawbridge on the right path. And you have to, well, first of all, there's a gate in front of the drawbridge, and it takes only a few seconds for that to open. Then the beavers spawn, but again, most players will take the right path, so there will be a lot of humans on that path, and they should effortlessly kill the beavers. The drawbridge itself, of course, it's a drawbridge. It will basically, from the other side, the bridge will kind of slide. It will slide across a bottomless pit, and it will touch the other side, your side of the bridge. And that's how you get across. Be wary of how slow this bridge slides, because I see a lot of cocky players jump onto the bridge while it's still sliding. And I haven't seen this happen myself, but of course, it's all too possible for you to be overzealous. You take the jump, and of course, you can't get to the bridge. It's too far away, and you fall in the bottomless pit and you die. It's a very easy way to get yourself killed in that stage. I haven't seen it yet, but it's possible, and I'm sure some Santassination runs I haven't seen myself. I'm sure there's like at least one or two idiots who do take that jump too early and they die. So beware of that jump. Now, let's get to the blast doors. There's one thing I should say about the blast doors. As of the current version of this map, the blast doors are sort of buggy at the moment. How? Well, when the blast doors open, if you try and squeeze through them while they're open, you take a jump and you get between the door, then it's all too possible for you to instantly die. For whatever reason, it just randomly happens. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't happen. So the bottom line is, do not touch the blast doors while they are opening. I have seen people die to this. I've seen people randomly die to the blast doors because they try to squeeze through when the doors are not fully opened. If you do not want to die, what you will do is stand by the door, don't touch it, and wait for it to fully open, or at least open enough to the point where you can just jump over it without touching the door at all, and just get on through. There are multiple blast doors. I think there's like 3 or 4 blast doors total, so you really have to be aware of those doors. Don't touch them while they are opening. You have to wait. Otherwise, fate will decide whether or not you live or die. So just please watch those doors. Alongside the doors themselves, this whole area with the blast doors on the right path, this is where a lot of Santa runs, at least for the first stage. This is where a lot of runs just start dying. People start dying, they become zombies, they die by the blast doors, they get hit by a zombie, people start getting infected. This is where a lot of Santa runs in Act 1 really start to die. Defending is very important in the blast door area, especially outside the blast doors. It's very easy to defend the drawbridge. Once the drawbridge is fully set up, you can just sit on the other side of that bridge and defend. Especially if you have knockback, like with the Pyro's air blast or with the soldier's rocket launcher. You can just push zombies right off the bridge and they will fall in the bottomless pit. They will die. They have to take some time to respawn. That's a very easy place to defend, but I don't think a lot of people realize that. They go all the way into the blast doors, that room, and of course they can't defend as well, so they slowly start getting infected. A lot of runs die this way, or at least start to die this way. Santa runs aren't usually lost specifically at this room, but this room is where they can start to lose. So please try to defend by the blast doors, especially by the drawbridge, as I have said earlier. Both of the paths, the left and the right one, need to be cleared in order to progress further into the stage. Well, sometime after the blast doors in the right path and the pipes in the red room with the left path, those intersect, and if the game detects that there are players on both sides, human or zombie, then the gates will open and you can progress on. At this point, there will be two more paths, but they're very simple and they both are the same thing. You take a door, and then there's a second door behind that door, and then the paths intersect. It's very easy. Generally, what I see players do is that they will take just one of these doors, one of these paths, and that's really not a problem. What is a problem here in this room is that since the left and right paths intersect, that means if the zombies overtake one path, let's say the left path, if they get through the left path, they take the pipe jump and they arrive at the intersection, the humans can be on the other path, the right side. They can intersect, and the zombies can absolutely rape the humans, because the zombies will be right next to the humans in the intersection. They won't be behind the humans, they'll be right next to them. So a lot of zombies can come in and get many, many hits and many infections. So that intersection is pretty important. The paths are not, but it's the intersection. You gotta really watch out for zombies if they're coming through on another side. When you get inside the Steelworks door, you'll come across an empty room. Zombies will be trapped behind the glass wall, and they can't even reach you at this point. As you guessed, this is the first boss of Santassination. There's only 4 bosses total, but this is the first proper boss. All it is that beavers will drop down the pipes continuously and they'll attack the players, the humans. The beavers are pretty much the same kind you will find elsewhere in the map. They are not stronger, they are not bigger, they don't have more health, they're the same. But there will be a lot of them. There will be a lot of them, and there will be a lot of damage shared between the beavers and the humans. This is where healers really come into play. This boss fight is pretty easy if you have a healer. If you don't have a healer, then the beavers can just deal scratch damage, and the beavers keep coming. So more than likely, if there's no healers, players will start dying slowly because the beavers will just be dealing damage, and there's no way to recover the health. And this fight lasts for like probably over a minute. So you gotta be on your toes and make sure you have a healer at this point. Up next is the main room of the stage. This is the Steelworks itself. Among every area in this stage, this room by far is where players die the most, and where Santa runs in stage 1 just lose. There's a lot to this room. It can take like 3 minutes on average if everyone does well and there's good teamwork. 3 minutes on average just to get through this one single room. There are a lot of doors, there are a lot of things which can stop you, and there are beavers. Not only that, but the zombies are released from the boss room pretty soon, and they can close the distance. They can very easily close the distance. You have to be very careful and watch behind you as you're running, because those zombies, again, they will be released early, and they can close the distance. Pyros especially are helpful here, because with his flamethrower, he can just slow the zombies down, and that will help out the team as they're trying to run away. But the point is, those zombies, they can come quickly, so please look behind you when you are running. I don't have a lot more to say about this room other than the laser in the middle. Now, it's not a door, it's a laser. As you may expect, lasers hurt. This laser hurts. In fact, it hurts so much, it will kill you in a single touch. I see players make the mistake of when they're trying to defend and the lasers still haven't shut down, they will touch the laser, just thinking it's like a barrier, like a door, it's nothing different, and then they just give, they die. All because, well, it's somewhere you gotta defend, it's a dead end, but the problem is this dead end, it will kill you if you touch it. Please be wary of this laser, because it can just catch you from surprise if you don't expect what's coming. It's easy to avoid, but it's also easy to keep in the mentality that this is nothing more than a door and it won't hurt you if you back all the way to it. Don't door hug this laser. Again, it will kill you. After the laser, the rest of this room is pretty straightforward. Nothing different from the first half. Not to say that this is an easy room, because again, I've stated, players die here more than anywhere else in this stage, so please do pay attention. But there's nothing different about this section, this other half. There's no trickery. Just to get to the end with some stops in the way, and if you clear that room, you're done. You've beaten stage 1. You've beaten, at this point, you're 2/5 of the way through. So 3 more stages to go. It's not going to get any easier from here. Now we're at Act 2, Santa's Factory. Oh man, Santa's Factory. This stage is where most players die and where most Santa runs are lost. This stage, by far, no contest. There are so many obstacles to this stage, so many tricks, so much confusion, that the zombies can kill off the entire team way less than halfway through, sometimes before they even get inside the factory itself. This stage is no joke. This is the turning point of a Santa run. This is where a Santa run can either go smoothly or you will lose a lot, so much that the game will end and you can't make it to Act 3. Most Santa runs do not reach Act 3. They don't. And it's mostly because of Act 2, this stage, the factory. Because, well, the game itself tells you when you're entering Santa's factory, be prepared for anything. It's not lying. It really isn't lying. Be prepared for anything, because this stage is dangerous. It is serious business. I'm probably going to spend the most time ranting about this stage than anything else in Santassination, because this stage is just wild, crazy. So buckle in, we're in for a long ride. Before I really begin talking about Act 2, there's a persistent obstacle in that stage that I want you all to see. You see this? That's a pizza. Looks delicious, right? If you touch it, maybe you'll get some health. You'll eat it, you heal. It's just like a video game thing. It's a trope. The pizza is aggressive, though. What they mean by that is that if you touch the pizza, if you step on this pizza, you will gib instantly, and that will be it. You will be a zombie. The pizza is aggressive. Do not touch it. You will die. There will be a lot of pizzas in inconvenient places, and you will die if you touch a single one of them. Don't make such a rookie mistake. Just like Act 1, Act 2 starts off with multiple paths. This is generally an easier section than the Act 1 paths. You can go left, you can go right, or you can take the elevator down straight. There really isn't much of a difference between these paths, metaphorically. Literally, of course, there are some differences. Like in the left and right path, you go on the cliff. In the straight path, you go down to the bottom of the canyon, and you jump across some ice in the water. But none of this is a concern. What is potentially concerning here is the elevator at the end of it. At the end of the straight path, down at the bottom of the canyon, there's an elevator. And I don't know what it is. For some reason, people who go down this path and take the elevator, they do not defend at that elevator. And sometimes the zombies come in and they wipe out everybody who goes inside the elevator. I've seen it happen a couple times. It is absolutely frustrating. Seriously infuriating. Because this is just the beginning of the stage. This is the easy part. There's so much worse things to come. And this is a long stage. This is like the first, probably the first 5% of the stage at that elevator, and people die there. It's so annoying. So please, when you're down at the elevator, please just try to shoot the zombies. Do not let them inside the elevator. Please. From the elevator to the next section I want to talk about, it's pretty straightforward. You will run across your first elf across a cliff. Now, everyone will be together. As long as people are together, NPCs should not be a problem. Ever. The beavers, the elves, the presents. If everyone's together, they won't be able to wipe out the team so quickly. They can only do 25 damage, which is nothing in TF2. It's a pretty serious deal in CSGO and CSS, but not TF2. Because you have classes who have over 100 health, and you have healers. So really, it's not that big of a deal. Now, what's that section I want to talk about? None other than the goddamn Gateface himself. Oh my god. This room is the big cheese of it all. The head Baron. I don't know what I want to say. But the point is, Gateface is the single deadliest room in the whole map. The single deadliest one. And not for the reason you might think. Now, how do we get past the Gateface? I'm going to say this very bluntly. To feed the Gateface, you must go to the top where it's dripping chocolate. Now, in TF2, the TF2 version of this map, the chocolate does not show. But at the top, there is chocolate. You go to the top, you get some chocolate, then you walk down and you touch the face. You have to do this 5 times to open the face. Now, why is this so dangerous? There are 2 huge problems to this. The first big issue is that people do not understand how to feed the face. So what will they do? They will sit at the top and they will just camp. That's all some people do. They will camp. They will sit there at the top. They won't move. They won't budge. They'll sit there and shoot zombies over and over and over and not even worry about feeding the face. which leads into the second problem. The gate face is not timed, people. It's not. The gate face must be fed. It must be fed 5 times, and then it will open. People do not get this. They will camp at the top, they will never feed the face, and eventually the zombies will break through and kill everybody, and that is where a lot of Santa runs just go to hell. That room. Because people do not understand what to do. It's very annoying. Annoying doesn't even describe it. Let me say this again so it's burned into your skulls. You must go to the top, get the chocolate, walk off, go down, touch the face, and you must repeat this 5 times. Then the gate face will open, and if all goes well, the rest of the stage is yours. Please, do not make mistakes here. Do not camp at the top. You will lose a Santa run if you do that. Guaranteed. So just please pay attention to what teammates are trying to tell you. And don't fall into the mentality of some idiots who want to camp at the top. You will lose this way, believe me. If by some miracle you get past the gate face, you will come across Santa's factory itself. After waiting 20 seconds to open the door, you will be presented with 2 paths. Before I get into these paths, there's a little side note I want to take care of. Once this room opens up to you, you may hear a mixtape play. It starts off with that one Vaporwave song everyone knows about, but I don't know the title. But it descends into absolute ear rape, that mixtape. It does. If you're not expecting it, say goodbye to your headphones. How do you avoid getting ear raped by that mixtape? Well, there's 2 options. First of all, you can go into the in-game options and turn off music before you enter the factory. What you can also do, if you know about the developer console, is you can go into the console and type the command as shown, snd_restart. This will eliminate every sound in the game, including the music, including the mixtape. So if you don't want your ears to be raped today, then just don't mess with the mixtape and be sure to do one of these things to stop it. Now, back onto Act 2 and the paths. There's a left path and a right path, just like Act 1. There's a clear difference in difficulty this time between the 2 paths. Generally speaking, if you don't want to die, if you want to have an easy time, you will take the left path. There really isn't much to it. If you want to take a risk, you will take the right path. Just like Act 1, both of these paths must be cleared in order to progress on in the stage. Assuming you have a full team, you have to split up here, and the zombies can catch up obviously because you have less people. So if a Santa run hasn't been lost in the gate face, there's a good chance that a Santa run can be lost in this room in the split. So do be on your guard when you are taking these paths, especially the right path. I really don't have anything to say about the left path. What will happen is you will take an elevator up to some weird room, some weird hallway, and there's a button there. All you have to do if you take the left path is push that button, and you have to wait until people clear the right path. So just sit there, defend against some zombies, because I assure you most zombies will take the left path. And once both paths are cleared, that's it. You can progress, and that will be the end of the left path. Again, it's really easy. The right path is another story. There are 2 big, dangerous rooms in the right path, but not immediately as soon as you get there. What will first happen is you will run across a gate face. This is a very simple defense with an NPC present, nothing you haven't seen before, but when that face explodes, you are in for a nasty surprise. Surprise! It's pizza time! A whole room with dangerous, aggressive pizzas. And guess what you have to do? You have to jump around them. You have to go around them. You can't touch them. You can't make a single step onto these pizzas because they are aggressive. You will die if you touch one. Yeah, good luck with that. This can be a very tricky room if you don't know what you're doing. And that's not all. The second problematic room in the right path is this giant green room that's nothing more than simple platforming, some jumps. If you suck at this, I assure you, you are going to die. You will miss time a jump, and you will fall into the bottomless pit, and that will be it for you. Or, additionally, if a zombie catches up to you, and you're busy trying to make some cool jumps, then yeah, that zombie will hit you, and you might as well eat it. So yeah, the right path. Very, very dangerous. Only people who know what is coming and know what they're doing should try the right path. Because if most of the humans go there and they don't know what to expect, I guarantee you most of the team, if not all of them, they will wipe out. Either to the pizza room or to the platforming room. What occasionally happens if zombies wipe out enough humans before you take these paths, like down back at the gate face, if like half of the humans or so are still alive, then what tends to happen is that most of the humans will go on the left path and most of the zombies will go on the right path. The zombies can push the buttons and do all that. They can clear the path for you. You can use this to your advantage if you want. I would still advise having humans on both paths, but in a dire situation, you can have zombies clear the paths for you. When both paths are done, you will come across a magic zombie push which will pretty much automatically defend for you, and you encounter a sled. A mexa sled. It prefers to be called a more offensive name I won't say here. Now the sled... The sled is a mixed bag. There's one thing I really want to say about the sled though. If you stand on the edge of the sled while it's departing, it will push you off and more than likely you will fall to your death. The game programmed that to happen if you stand on the side. You have to stay in the middle if you want to stay alive. Additionally, as the sled is making its way through the lava room, the zombie push will be disabled, and zombies can jump onto the sled from the sides. You have to really watch out for this because it can take a single zombie jumping up to some distracted humans and wipe out the whole team. But other than that, if the team is doing well, the sled shouldn't be so much of a choke point, but again, there are those few issues and you should be able to recognize how to deal with them. After getting off the sled, you'll come across this room, which looks a lot like the Beaver Steelworks room. This is an interesting room because it's not a traditional defense. There's a left door and there's two right doors. If you try immediately going over to the right door, you will find that those doors will not open. What will happen? Well, turns out you have to do the left door first. There's a button somewhere in this room that opens the left door, but not the right doors. So, once you go through the left door, when it opens, there's a button on the platform. That button, when pressed, opens the right doors, and you can progress. You have to be very careful about this, because zombies can easily catch up here. But you can't just sit at the right doors all the way at the end. Somebody has to be at the left door in order to push that button to open the right doors and progress. Once again, you can have zombies take advantage of this for you. You can have zombies go through the left door, push the button, and you won't even have to take care of that. I do not like this method. I like beating Santassination legitimately, and that means beating Santassination with human players. So, please have at least one guy standing at the left door, trying his hardest to defend, in order to be ready for that left door button. At the end of this room is something different. Once again, there's a button way off from where you are, and the door won't open until you press that button. This time, the button is all the way on the other side of the room. After some platforms, you have to jump across, and there's a baby. Green lights, you can't miss it. Someone has to go over there and press that button in order to open the vent door. If people aren't aware of this, the zombies can easily catch up, and well, you're done. This usually is not a problem though. People get through the baby part way easier and way quicker than they do with the doors before. So even though this is kind of a stopping point, it's not a bad stopping point. If you know what you're doing, if at least one person knows what they're doing, they can take care of this easy peasy. The last major choke point of Act 2 is a weird room, a very weird one. It has a strange layout. Basically, the gist of it is, you take a jump, there's 3 buttons you have to press to open the main door and progress. 3 buttons, all scattered across the room. This causes the most confusion, aside from the gay face. This is a very confusing place, and players, if they aren't already dead, they will probably die here. So what would I do? Well, at least one person should be out pressing all the buttons. I think they're pretty easy to find. At least the first 2 buttons are easy to find, and the third one is kind of out of the way, but still not that bad. What happens, though, is that zombies, people aren't taking care of the zombies, they're not defending, so the zombies jump over, and they, since the humans are split up trying to find the buttons, the zombies can devour them with ease. So, the most important thing about this room is not getting the buttons as soon as possible. You have to sit and defend that jump. It's a super easy defense, people. A super easy one. It's a narrow, bridge, and the zombies have to jump over a pit, otherwise they fall and then they die and they have to respawn. Super easy defense. It probably only takes one person sitting there to defend and not let a single zombie through. But people do not get this. I try to tell them and they don't get it. So please, at that jump, this particular jump, try and defend from the zombies. More often than not, you will kill a lot of them just by pushing them off the pit, and that will give the team enough time to push all of the buttons. Watch out for the pizza at the end of this room. Yes, after all 3 buttons have been pressed, you can get to the door where there's another button. You just push that button to unlock it, but there's a pizza. There's a pizza placed right underneath the button. Super inconvenient. It is way too easy for someone to get over their head, not look at the pizza, and then they press that button, and then, well, they gib. The pizza's aggressive. Please watch your step here in this room, because that pizza, that can really catch you off guard. That's all I have to say about Act 2. The rest of the stage is pretty forward, and it has a neat ending. Act 2 is without a doubt the hardest stage in the whole map. It's not the worst one. I think Truth is worse, and I'll get to why later. But in terms of difficulty, in terms of confusion, Act 2 is where most of the trouble really comes into play. It's no joke, I warned you, be prepared for anything. Most Santa runs do not make it to Act 3. It's because of Act 2, the factory. If you've gotten this far, give yourself a pat on the back, and high-five your teammates, conga with them, do whatever, because you deserve it. You've earned it. Getting through Act 2 without zombies wiping you out, that's an achievement. This map is serious business, and that stage especially will screw you over a lot if you really aren't prepared for it. Act 3 is Santa's Lair. I'm not going to go over much about Act 3. I don't know what it is, but for some reason, people get through Act 3 really easily. Well, most of Act 3 really easily. A lot of people tend to choke at the very end before the final boss. But Act 3 as a whole isn't a problem. People get through it pretty easily. I have way easier times in Act 3 than I ever do for Act 1 and Act 2. So I'm not really going to go over it. You people have gotten it already, and I'm happy about that. There is one thing I want to cover, though, and it involves how to get to the true ending. Because the true ending only is triggered by something in this act. To reach the truth stage, and to reach the true ending, you have to run across 3 invisible triggers placed on the map. In Counter-Strike, CSS, and CSGO, these versions of the map are pretty easy to spot, these triggers, because, well, they have sprites. In TF2, these sprites are broken. They're completely invisible. So they're just plain invisible triggers, and if you don't understand it, then I don't blame you. And that's why a lot of people don't get true ending, is because they don't understand why or how to get it. So what are these 3 triggers supposed to be? Well, at the start of this act, there are 3 paths. I'm not going to talk at all about the middle path. There's nothing to say about it. People get through it. The left and the right path, they are how you get to the true ending. On the left path, outside, not on the tram, but outside, on the castle wall, there is Simba. Simba is behind the gate. In order to get Simba, you can do 2 things. The intended way to get Simba is you go down to a tower. It's at the end of the left path. The gate will take a long while to open, but once that gate to the tower opens, there's a lever. Just press that lever, and the gate blocking Simba will open, and you can just go and get Simba. Alternatively, if there are scouts on your team, you can have the scouts double jump around that gate, and they will very easily get Simba. You don't have to press the lever or do anything. Now, the right path. The right path holds Zazu. It's pretty easy to get to Zazu compared to Simba, but I don't know. People miss Zazu more than they miss Simba. I guess it's because they're in the hurry. How do you get Zazu? Well, you take the right path and there's a lower gate. You wait for the lower gate to open and you stay there after the gate opens. Don't immediately go to the elevator. You stay there at the gate. There's a jump pad next to a pillar right by the lower gate. If you wait, the jump pad will break. And you can take the jump pad and there is Zazu. Easy. But again, people miss Zazu more than they miss Simba. I think it's because in general a lot of people don't take the right path, or they don't understand that there's a trigger, there's a reason to get on that pillar with the jump pad, or they just rush over past the gate because zombies are there, or they just want to rush, they don't want to waste time. I don't get it, but that's just what people do. Now that's just Simba and Zazu. There's also Mufasa, but Mufasa is not until like close to the end of the stage, so let's save him for later. Again, I'm not going to go over how to get through Act 3. People understand Act 3. They really do. At least the first half of it. Everyone usually makes it to the first boss of this stage really simple. Really fast. So I'm not even going to bother talking about it. What I will talk about now is the actual boss. None other than Santa Claus. This first Santa fight is really easy, but there's something important I want to tell you about him. Santa, and let alone every NPC, every boss, including Santa, Santa does not take damage from flamethrowers. Not a single point of damage. He's immune to afterburn, and he's immune to the direct flame damage. So please, Pyros, don't use your flamethrower against Santa. Use your shotguns. Use your melees. You can even use those flare guns if you made the mistake of bringing them into the Skial server. But please do not use the flamethrower on Santa. Now, as for how Santa himself works, Santa will simply chase you around, just like the NPCs. He will do more damage than the NPCs, but there's really nothing special about him. What he will do sometimes is go invisible. This is not a bug, it's intended. Santa will cloak, essentially, for a short period of time. But that's really all there is to this fight. Santa himself, very easy, especially if you have a healer, so I'm not worried about him. After defeating Santa, you'll have to run across up the tower. Now, like the Beaver Steelworks, the zombies are released early after you beat Santa. So you really have to watch behind you as you're trying to run up the tower. If you're not careful, zombies can basically spread up to you. They will infect the people at the bottom, and they'll work their way up and infect the people at the top. So please, stay together, make sure those zombies don't get to you. At the top of the tower pathway is another door. Remember Mufasa? Well, he's actually behind this door. You have to press a button to open the door, you walk to the center of the tower, you get Mufasa, and if you already have Simba and Zazu, you've done it. You've unlocked the truth stage. As long as you beat Act 3, you reach the truth, and you have a chance at reaching the true ending. But there's a problem. This is not how you actually get to the end of Act 3. Across from this door, you will take an elevator, a huge elevator, goes forever, up to the very top of the tower, and that's where the final boss is. But you have to stay at this door, not to rush over to the elevator if you want to get Mufasa. So please, if you are trying to do a true ending Santa run, do not go to the elevator across this door. Stay there, defend, until the door opens, and then someone can run in and grab Mufasa. As a side note, when the door opens, there will be reindeer. Remember them from the Prologue? Well, they come back here in Act 3, and they will run across down to Mufasa as you're trying to get there yourself. So be careful of that. Once you get on the elevator and go to the top, Act 3 is almost over. There's a gate that leads to a big boss room, and that's pretty much the end of it. But that gate, shockingly enough, it's a last second choke point. Why? Because teammates get too cocky. They will sit there screwing around in the boss room, but they will not look at the gate and realize that there are zombies who have teleported to the top of the tower and are coming to the gate, and people don't notice them until it's too late. Please, at the top of the tower, in the gate, when you enter the boss room, please shoot the zombies behind you, because they can get inside and they can infect the people. But if zombies get inside, there's still hope, because when the final boss spawns, all of the zombies in the boss room will die. So it's not that big of a deal if you do let the zombies in, but it can kill off the team at the last possible second, and that's really frustrating for me, and I'm sure that's frustrating for you too. So let's avoid that, okay? Now, as for the final boss himself, it's Big Santa. A fat Santa. Compared to regular Santa, Big Santa is a little bit more challenging. Big Santa will basically do the same thing as regular Santa. He will chase you, and that's pretty much it. Unlike regular Santa, Big Santa will not go invisible. He will always be visible, and he will always be vulnerable. But Big Santa deals more damage, and that can kill off a player pretty easily, especially since by the end of Act 3, whenever I go and do a Santa run and it reaches the end of Act 3 in the first place, there will usually be at least a quarter of humans alive. If even a quarter, it's less than. Sometimes it's just 3, 2, 1 player. The group gets very small at this point. And so Big Santa, he has a lot of health, he does a lot of damage. He can wipe out the team pretty easily, so you gotta really watch out when Big Santa spawns. If you defeat Big Santa, and you've got Simba, Zazu, and Mufasa, congratulations, you have reached the truth stage, the final stage of the game. I'm not going to talk much about truth, mostly because I don't want to spoil it, but there are some things about truth that I want to say. The first thing is, the truth stage, at this time, posting the video, truth is broken. Like, buggy, broken, annoying. It's way better in CSS and CSGO than it is in TF2. So, it may not even be worth it going into the truth at this point. But if you do go to the truth, here are some things I want to warn you about. First of all, the truth is very dark. The whole stage is dark. And not only is truth dark, it's full of bottomless pits. As you can imagine, this is not a good combination. So what do you have to do? You have to watch your step. Really watch your step. I see way too many players walk off the side, fall into the pit, they die, and that is how the team dies. The zombies are laughable in this stage. They are laughable. They are not a threat at all in this stage. I'm serious. It's those pits, those bottomless pits, which can kill off most of the team one by one. Avoid that. Watch your step. Another thing, this is probably the single biggest surprise death in the entire map. Basically halfway between truth, you'll run across the sled again. You remember the sled from Act 2? Well, she comes back here. This time she isn't friendly, and people don't realize that. So what happens? If you touch the sled this time while she's off ranting, you will die. You'll burn to death. She's attacking you. People do not realize this, and they die. They die pathetically, and they die in mass. This is super frustrating, especially with the bottomless pits and how dark truth is. This is a serious killer, the sled. So please, when the sled spawns, stay away from her. She will kill you if you touch her, just like the pizzas. Other than that, that's all I really have to say about truth. It's kind of a straightforward stage, but there's some trickery and there's some bugs. I'm not even sure if it's worth it getting the true ending, but if you want to try and get the true ending, if you want to try and challenge yourself, well, here you are. That's essentially everything I have to say about ZE Santassination for TF2 Zombie Escape. It's one of my favorite Source Engine maps of all time, but I also think it's one of the most difficult Source Engine maps of all time in terms of Zombie Escape. The irony of all this is pretty sad to me. I kind of take amusement at how people die so easily. They're so confused because there's just so much to worry about. But at the same time, I get very annoyed, especially when people die at the big choke points. People choke at the Steelworks. They choke at the Beaver intersection. They choke at the gate face. They choke at the buttons room near the end of the factory. They choke at the big gate to the boss room to Big Santa at the very end of Act 3. They choke the Truth's bottomless pits, and they choke the Truth's sled. It's very frustrating in these situations, and what I'm trying to do ultimately is to get this message out to the right people, and hope that they listen to everything I say, even though I'm kind of abrasive about it. They listen to what I say, and they try and understand why this map kills them so often, so they can get better. I'm not sure if this will go out to everyone I want to go out to, but I was just getting real tired of people dying over and over and over to the same obstacles in this map, in one of my favorite ever Source Engine maps. Again, the irony of all this is just tragic, and I really want to avoid it. I do. So please take this to heart if you know what I'm talking about. Please take this to heart, and please help your team win Santassination. Because it's a fun, weird map, but it's just hard. And people don't see the whole experience because they tend to die before they reach Act 3. That's only 3 out of 5 stages they get to see. The 5th and final stage, most people don't even see that, because the true ending is kind of hard and confusing to get. And even beating truth, beating the true ending, beating the true final boss, I have never ever seen it happen. Not once. But maybe we can do it one day. I believe in the Skial server, We've had great Santa runs before. We've gotten through Act 3 without losing once. I want to keep that up, and that's why I'm here to tell you all about how to survive these obstacles in Santassination. Because I can believe that we can reach the true ending and beat it, and be happy with ourselves. Thank you for watching.